As the Hindenburg left New York, Lakehurst radioed that a weather front was moving into the New Jersey area. The Hindenburg reached Lakehurst at 4 in the afternoon, but gusty winds and rain made an immediate landing impossible. She turned east, back out to sea, to ride out the storm over the New Jersey coast. She would have to wait 3 more hours before reaching her final resting place. 5 p.m., May 6th, 1937. The airship Hindenburg cruised off the New Jersey coast, waiting for the weather to clear at Lakehurst. At 6:23 p.m., Lakehurst radioed, "Recommend landing now." Captain Pruce acknowledged and set course for Lakehurst. Radio commentator Herb Morrison recorded her arrival for the first transcontinental broadcast.
Well, here it comes, ladies and gentlemen, and what a great sight it is. A thrilling one. The ship is riding majestically toward us like some great feather. It's a marvel.
Newsreel cameras whirred as water ballast was released to bring the ship into trim.
The ship is no doubt bustling with activity, as we can see. Orders are shouted to the crew. The passenger probably lining the windows looking down the field ahead of them, getting their glimpse of the mooring mast. It's practically standing still now. They've dropped ropes out of the nose of the ship. It's been taken a hold of down on the field by a number of men. It's starting to rain again. The rain had slacked up a little bit. The back motors of the ship are just holding it just enough to keep it from... It bursts into flames. Get it started, get it started. It's crashing terrible. Oh my, get out of the way, please. It's bursting into flames and it's falling on the mooring mast and all the folks between us. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's running 400 or 500 feet into the sky, and it's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. The smoke and the flames now, and the flame is crashing to the ground, not quite to the mooring mast. All the humanity and all the passengers screaming around it. I told him I can't talk to people. His friends are on there. I can't talk, ladies and gentlemen. Honest, it's just laying down massive smoking wreckage. And everybody can't hardly breathe and talk and screaming. Lady, I'm sorry. Honestly, I can hardly breathe. I'm going to step inside where I cannot see it. Sorry, that's terrible. Listen, folks, I'm going to have to stop for a minute because I've lost the voice. This is the worst thing I've ever witnessed.
Even today, the disaster is vivid in the memories of those who witnessed the crash. A member of the ground crew was directly beneath the Hindenburg when she exploded. Lawrence Thomas.
My job was to have what they call a spider line. I would hook the spider line onto the ship, and there would be 8 men would spread out with the different ropes and pull just as hard as they could. So just as I was reaching for the rope to put my spider line on, she went boom, and it blew it right out of my hand. And matter of fact, if I remember correctly, I think most of us went off our feet.
Stanley True worked at the Lakehurst base as an ambulance driver.
They asked us to take the 2 commanding officers, which was Captain Pruce and Captain Lehman, and we proceeded to put them in our ambulances. Captain Pruce, who I was attending in the ambulance, was burnt from head to foot, but he was in perfect spirits. Captain Lehman seemed to me like he was gone.
Miraculously, 62 people on board the Hindenburg escaped from the flames. The death toll was 36. 13 passengers, 22 crew members, and 1 groundsman. Captain Pruce did recover, but Captain Lehman died from his burns. The Hindenburg herself was the last of her kind. The 13 passengers killed in the Hindenburg crash were the only passenger fatalities in the Zeppelin Company's 30-year history. The reason for the fire that consumed the great airship was obvious. The the 7 million cubic feet of volatile hydrogen gas contained in the hull. The reason why the fire started has been a source of controversy to this day. Was it accident or sabotage?
One man has spent a lifetime sifting the evidence. World authority on airships and author of numerous books on the subject, Dr. Douglas Robinson.
I've never been satisfied that the ship was sabotaged. I don't think there's been adequate proof of a plot to do so. I believe that there was an accidental ignition of leaking hydrogen. There is no doubt at all that the ship landed in a condition where there is a very high electrical potential difference right after a thunderstorm. After she dropped her landing ropes, she was discharging electricity, static electricity, into the atmosphere. The other question, of course, is there is obviously free hydrogen that was ignited by the brush discharge. How was there free hydrogen present? And there's quite a number of arguments about that, and there's certainly no agreement.
How could hydrogen have escaped from the gas-tight bags? How could it have ignited? Theories were debated immediately after the disaster at a board of inquiry convened by the U.S. Department of Commerce. Germany sent an official commission headed by Hugo Eckener. Airship officials from both countries looked to Eckener to provide the answers. Eckener speculated that a bracing wire inside the hull had broken during landing maneuvers in the gusty winds. The broken wire slashed open a gas cell, allowing hydrogen to escape. It was then ignited by static electricity, sometimes called St. Elmo's fire. Eckener's theory was accepted as the official conclusion by both American and German investigators.
Everybody involved in the accident investigation assumed that there had been St. Elmo's fire, but nobody had actually seen it among the witnesses who appeared. I think this is because they were all standing underneath the ship and couldn't see what was going on top. But quite a few years ago, I interviewed a couple who were standing outside the main gate of the air station and had quite a different view of the disaster. They were about a quarter mile away. They saw it silhouetted against the evening sky, and both of them observed a dim blue flame flickering along the full length of the top of the ship, and even had time to exchange some remarks about it before there was a sudden yellow flaming burst of burning hydrogen just ahead of the upper fin. So I feel with no doubt whatever there was St. Elmo's fire, and it did set fire to escaping hydrogen.
Many present at the Board of Inquiry, however, disagreed. They argued that the ship had been subjected to much greater stress without wires breaking, and that St. Elmo's fire was not powerful enough to ignite hydrogen gas. They believed the Hindenburg had been destroyed by another cause, sabotage.
I spent a morning with Captain Cruz, the captain of the Hindenburg at the time of the fire in 1957. He by then had convinced himself that the ship was sabotaged and insisted that a particular passenger had used various excuses to be in the tail of the ship to plant a bomb.
The sabotage threats received by the German embassy before the Hindenburg took off were brought up in the testimony at the inquiry in 1937, but they were not pursued. Because official investigations were clouded by diplomatic considerations, it may never be known whether the Hindenburg was destroyed by accident or by sabotage. Either way, it is likely that there would have been no fire if the ship had been filled with helium instead of hydrogen. Had it not been for the strained international politics of the 1930s, the tragedy of the great airship Hindenburg might never have occurred. The Hindenburg crash sounded the death knell for giant passenger airships. Today, however, there is no longer the risk of fire that threatened the hydrogen-filled dirigibles. Helium is easily available. Perhaps commercial lighter-than-air service has a future after all. Goodyear Public Relations spokesman Ron Bell.
With the fuel efficiency of the airship and the energy considerations of today and our modern technology and 50 years of experience in airship manufacturing, we're going to be able to build a far superior airship to what they had in the days of the Hindenburg. We have two airships currently that we have designed. One of them is the heavy lifter, 450 feet long and capable of carrying 75 tons of cargo. The other airship is the Coastal Patrol airship, and it's 320 feet long and able to patrol international as well as domestic borders. They have a very real feasibility. They're far more economical than aircraft and faster than ships for cargo transportation.
In Europe and America, a number of companies are designing and testing a new generation of lighter-than-air craft. Perhaps the airship business is about to take up where the Hindenburg left off.
Coming up next, 20th Century with Mike Wallace puts perspective on the 1970 killing of 4 Kent State students by the National Guard. Then from the Western Front through Patton's race to Berlin to Desert Storm, it's the story of Hell on Wheels, tank divisions on Weapons at War.